So I've beaten Satisfactory once, and I'm quite pleased with having done that. I started this game when 1.0 came out 10 months ago. 10 months! I had absolutely no clue that it was that short. I thought I'd been doing this for over a year. And then when I heard 1.1 was coming out, I began to panic and put in a almighty spurt. But let's not talk about that for now, because this is a map of everything that I did in Satisfactory. As you can see, I basically covered most of the outer map. But let's start at the end, here in the Grassy Fields, where, as you can see, I'm currently lurking. The design of this factory is just about a throwback, except for the extremely advanced machinery. I mean, a beginner factory doesn't have particle accelerators, it doesn't have converters, it doesn't make singularity cells, it doesn't even have manufacturers, and it certainly doesn't have quantum encoders, which nominally are making superposition oscillators. But in true beginner fashion, we do have some machinery just sitting out there on the open ground. Wet concrete being made for the singularity cells. I do in fact have a teleporter to take me to the space elevator located deep in the Dune Desert. I also have a blueprint designer there because I started getting overexcited about making blueprints. But for now, I want to follow the train. So where did my factory get its reanimated SAM and diamonds from? Here, where normally I would be making a coal powered plant. Some of my few Mark 6 belts can be seen here, looking quite impressive. Originally it was making biochemical sculptors, but once I'd made all that I needed, I simply tore everything out and replaced it. The concrete slabs sitting on a frame were a design that I wanted to use. But the train continues beyond that, obviously. We have to get aluminium from somewhere, and I use a lot of aluminium. Where do I get my aluminium ingots? At the far end of this roller coaster. Better make a note. In the next game, no roller coasters. Try and make railway lines as smooth and shallow ramped as possible, even though I have to admit that this is a really cool design. But in any case, we're coming to the end of the line, and the end of the line is where we get our aluminium ingots from, here on the west coast. And here's the aluminium ingot output. A plant that started out as an experiment has proven so good that I kept it on. Now, there's a lot of rafts here, that is, unsupported foundations, just floating on the surface of the water, in the same way that bricks don't. And I really need to do something about that. Maybe I should make another note. No rafts, everything has to be supported. Everything needs to have dirty great big legs descending into the void. So, and another thing that I want to do, this is the sloppy alumina and electrode scrap part of the whole business. Yes, it's all alts all the time. I want to do something about these big, long conveyors. I mean, I'm going to try and challenge myself to not have any belts between factories that are more than 48 meters long. If you have to move stuff further than 48 meters, use a vehicle. I mean, I could use drones here, I think. That'd look kind of cool. But in any case, some of those aluminium ingots go sideways, passing over the petroleum coke inputs and going to a little factory that creates heat exchangers. I use those and ship them out by drone to feed the Rocky Desert nuclear reactor. You can also see a small fuel power plant immediately before what looks like a very big bank of refineries, and they are big. Trust me on this. They use up every drop of oil from that heavily overclocked resource well that's now in the Spire Coast, and I'm very pleased to see it. So the pipes go out. That alien power adapter is still there, of course, even though now everything is plugged into the mains via the train lines. Maybe that's something else I should try and avoid. In any case, this massive complex of refineries is devoted to making petroleum coke, residual rubber, and residual plastic. When I set this up, I didn't actually have the recycled alts. But we have to follow the train lines north to that big rectangular layer cake we can see in the distance. And why not? I mean, it's a lovely day for that sort of thing. But this is what I devoted the majority of the western edge of the Rocky Desert anyway to making. That big layer cake, all concrete and steel and fix-it orange, is devoted to constructing yes, it's just in the bottom left there. That tower block, or just block if you prefer, takes this wet concrete and steamed copper sheeting and combines it with a whole lot of other things to make modular engines and adaptive control units. Everything comes in at the bottom and pretty much percolates to the top. Again, with big belts. If I ever end up rebuilding this, it'll be interesting to see how I arrange all the transportation I'm going to need. Remember, no belts longer than 48 meters. Can I do it? I don't know. I'm going to have to see how long I can hold out. But of course, one of the things we do in here is screw. Every single one of these belts you can see is all about the screws. I've got an entire, well, we've got half of a floor anyway, that is just screwing like mad. Steel screws, of course. I'm making a lot of steel ingots here with the coke steel ingot recipes. That curved window is a little mini hub, and there's our local mines. Yes, I can imagine setting up a set of tractor or truck routes, because inside, machines, lots of machines. Blueprints are your friends, ladies and germs. So on the left, I believe we're making circuit boards, and on the right, if I remember correctly, we are making either steel beams or, no, we're making the steel screws, I remember now. Because the whole idea of the factory was that everything would be stacked. The pure idea is that every single floor in this factory should actually be, ideally, devoted to just making one thing. Like here, this is the modular engines. I didn't have lifts, so I had to use a set of hypertubes. So here's another mixed floor, which is not quite what I had in mind for stacks, and it's not a good idea to walk into the into a passing conveyor lift, but there you go. I mean, some of the spaghetti was a bit difficult to combine and mix together, but never mind about that. Sorting it all out was a real challenge, and also I'd picked up some extra building components, so I was trying those out. I believe this is the heavy modular frame floor, which I think I need for... do I need them for computers? Oh, bottoms, I can't remember. I needed them for one of the two project parts. this was also the first time that I seriously sorted out how to do the logistics for manufacturer floors, and in the end it turned out quite well. As you can tell, it's a bit dark in here, very dark, very gloomy, very late in the day. Oh, look at all those screws coming in. Oh, if you like screws, well, we got screws. Do you like screwing? We do a lot of screwing in this building. But that's beside the point. Everything goes up to be sent out by drone to the Dune Desert, where Phase 4 parts end up being made. What about versatile frameworks? Well, I'll get to that. I was going to show you the top floor, by the way, but I forgot to turn off the HUD. I'm a bit embarrassed by that. Yeah. But off to one side, a big flat thing of motors. So there's the copper wire being made in the foreground, motors in the back. But coming up from the east, huge numbers of assemblers, constructors, and other things making steel screws again, and steel rods, and steel pipe, because we need all of those. Fitting all those together was really wonderful, but just don't look below, because some of the spaghetti is, yeah. But never mind what's going on there. Never mind all those naughty solid steel ingots, which I would have shown you if it wasn't for the fact I wanted you come over here. Come over here. I want to show you something. That building there. You know how I was talking about making factories as a stack? Well, that's a stack. In fact, it is the most pure stack that I've ever made, even though the second from the top floor is actually two parts being made. So I wasn't entirely on song with it. But this is the basic idea. You have a factory and you have lots of belts, and every floor is supposed to be making one thing. In this case, is all to make electromagnetic control rods for the Rocky Desert reactor. I'm not going to show you the Rocky Desert reactor. The Rocky Desert reactor was my first attempt. The Rocky Desert reactor is, in several ways, an absolute dog's breakfast. It also had a habit of going up and down like a horse drawers because there were issues with it, either with the supply of various parts or disposing of excess liquid, which ended up backing up and basically clogging up the whole plutonium fuel rod assembly. But let's get closer to that. This is where the silica and quick wire for the modular engine computer stack come from. And where it gets its quartz crystal for the silica is underground. If you've ever gone to the Dune Desert searching for quartz and then ended up running around trying to figure out where is this quartz, it is literally underground. There is a gigantic cave that runs from one side of the Rocky Desert to the other, west to east. Basically, the western entrance is near where there are about 4 normal coal nodes. But basically, I'm using the excess from this set of factories here. That's an encased industrial beam factory there, making encased industrial beams, which we need for the nuclear effort. We also make iron plate and steel beams in this structure here. Now if I go underneath, you can see the entrance and the silica that we have assigned to the reactor effort. Yep, there it is, see it? But now you know where to go. Let's go to the northern forest. Because where am I getting my versatile frameworks from? Top left of this map. That's where I'm making my versatile frameworks. And here it is. It's set in 3 buildings. We import petroleum coke on top of the modular frame factory, which is what you're looking at there. Directly behind it is the final join and solid steel steel ingot smeltery. And this building here is relatively large and is the one that I'm most fond of because of its terrain-hugging, 2-pronged appearance. That's where we make these screws and plate for modular frame, for the reinforced iron plate and modular frames. And that's what everything does here. This particular location is pretty cool because you've got pure limestone, 4 pure iron nodes and 2 pure copper nodes to play with. Very good if you're starting out. But further along, and in the middle of that map, we come to Iron Glen. Not that you can see Iron Glen anymore. All 6 pure iron nodes and pure copper node are devoted to making smart plating and automated wiring. There are 3 parts to it. In the background you can see the copper plant making our cable and wire. Here's the buildings that are the final join for the, I believe that's the automated wiring, I'm dead certain of it. And in this magnificent and rather cluttered factory, this is where we make the smart plating for export. Once again, drones. Yes, now here's something. It should buckle under its own weight, but this is my first ever fuel power plant. I was so proud. It's just a straight fuel recipe and the resin getting sunk because no point in doing anything. Of course, now there's a turbo fuel plant on the left and a plastics plant on the right, which is going into the Dune Desert and that grey mass. So what is that grey mass? Well, this is, or rather was, Factory Town. But now it's more like, let's just say, cyberpunk blocks. So, well, I was going to wait until the morning, but the place looks so good at night. You can just see it in the distance. This is where it all began, by the way. Let's catch a train. So we go past my initial base on the right, where it all began. I'm going to say that over and over again. Yeah, I know I haven't deleted my notes. I don't need them at the moment. But as we get closer, Factory Town, you'll soon notice, has turned into Neon City. I'm using Structural Solutions decorative beams here, in particular the very narrow beams. So from the welcome center I have set up at the foot of the space elevator for any arrivals and incoming colonists. May I welcome you to the vaguely faux cyberpunk stylings of Neon City. Yeah, I think that's what I'll call it, Neon City. I didn't have a name for it. Really. Please ignore the elevated conveyor belt in the front. That's where the parts came in. And that's what it's supposed to look like when it's completed. I never have completed it. I tend to get to a point where, okay, the machinery is running. Do I have time or patience for decorations? No? Well, tough. So I'm using Structural Solutions concrete and just the neons. But before that, there was Factory Town. I was actually using vehicles, factory carts mostly. Factory carts that, in order to stop them from crashing into each other, started and stopped in a cart park, which you can see here, right next to a SAM fluctuator factory I built, despite the fact I didn't actually need SAM fluctuators. Now that I think of it, I should have just stuck with reanimated SAM. But this is what the basic structure looked like, but it was inefficient and I tore it down. This is the eastern terminus of the Spire Coast Railway, which is bringing in our next load of plastic and fuel. I keep thinking to myself that I really should have retooled everything to use recycled plastic and rubber once I got the alts, but I just never got around to it. After all, things weren't technically broken, so why fix them? I had other things to do. The first ever building in the new Neon City is this decidedly non-neon copper powder works. The most heavily sommers-looped building I've ever made. Almost everything here is sommers-looped in order to supply enough material to make the nuclear pasta I needed. But for now, we need to take a train. I have 3 trains running on this rail. First there was one, and then I managed to set up 2 and not have them crash into each other, which was lovely. And then I added this one. Now it looks pretty much the same as the other trains. It's not specially coloured. It bypasses the iron alloy plant number 1 because we all go clockwise around here. And it took me a while to get the interchange to work, but once I got it working, look, can I be honest, I actually have a great deal of fun when I'm setting up trains. I just love working out what's the coolest way to, coolest as well as the most efficient way to run and support the rail. So the supports here are obviously workmanlike and not particularly interesting to look at, but they don't have to be. They work. I mean, yes, there's this bridge over here using Structural Solutions arches, which looks really cool. So I believe I was recording this on Thursday night, and then by the time I got into the swamp, why are we going into the swamp? You'll find out. Yeah, as you can see, the frame rate dropped like a horse drawers, and I tried to soldier on for a bit, because where are we? Well, I think you saw that it was something to do with AI? No, AL, aluminium. This is where we get our aluminium ingots from, here in the swamp, with its big mystery eggs. Well, it's not really a mystery, you can work it out. So, remember the aluminium refinery that I tried out on the west coast? Well, here it is on the east coast of the swamp, scaled up and up and up, hence the ridiculously long conveyor belts here. 4 banks of refineries making sloppy alumina, and then electrode scrap, and then pure aluminium ingots. Before A, sinking them because the other destination, B, well, this is destination C. Petroleum coke comes out of that refinery you see there and passes through this structure, which is the support structure for the swamp nuclear reactor. Far more compactly designed, logically designed, rationally designed. And after sorting out the issue of getting rid of excess liquids, it works quite well. So in the foreground you saw the packaged fuel and just plain packaging department. We've got our liquids and wet and concrete processing on the bottom, the metal parts like alclad and steel bits and encased beams are made, and then they come to this one, which is where we make all our uranium fuel rods and then our plutonium fuel rods, and then we sink them. Next time I think I'll try and go all three ways. But where do we get them from? Well, belts. Ridiculously long belts. Long, dangerous to install belts. You do not want to see the ends of these belts. I don't want to see the ends again either. But at some stage, well, the end is the beginning, and this is the beginning. Fix-it walls, miners Mark 1, making the parts I need. The nearby concrete node has of course been captured by a plant that makes concrete, steel ingots and copper ingots for the city. But that doesn't matter. Here's where I started. This is where it all began. This is where I put down my first ever alien power adapter. These are where I installed my first dimensional depot uploaders. And of course, in the distance, the symbol of victory. I succeeded, and I want to do it again. And I have to wonder, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Where am I going to start, and where do I want to end? Because one thing I am got the willies about is finding a place to start and then basically just backtracking. Doing what I did in this game, which was start at the Dune Desert, go west to the Rocky Desert, and then down to the Grassy Fields to finish everything off. What if I did it in reverse? More interestingly, what if I was able to make Phase 2 parts somewhere other than the Northern Forest? What if I was able to work out how to try to make Phase 2 parts in the Rocky Desert, Phase 3 parts in the Northern Forest, and then bring them over to Phase 4 in the Dune Desert? I mean, I'm not entirely sure how I would do that. Or could I make Phase 2 in or around the Grassy Fields, Phase 3's, Phase 4's in the Northern Forest, and or the Phase 5 faff in the Dune Desert? Is that possible? Can I create enough turbo fuel for all the vehicles that need it? How would I go about supplying them? Grand Railroad? I mean, there's so many ways I could do it, of course. I mean, I could try other things. I haven't actually explored the center of the map very much. And I should. I suspect that Hard Drive Safari is going to be involved a lot in my next run. But in any case, this is how I've done it the first time. And I intend doing it again. So keep an eye out. twitch.tv/cranky_rabbit. Well, I'm going to say one thing. Thanks for watching this.